And we are back, bigger than ever, baby.
Fucking go.
We're excited to be back. It's been a few months. We didn't mean to abandon you for so long. We just abandoned you, nope, out. Sorry, it was a one-nighter. Didn't mean to have you. Sorry about that. We left you just like that. But no, we had to take a little time off, man. If you just started following our podcast recently, Sean, my brother and I have been running it since 2018. Doing a bunch of stuff, and then Dan came on last year and really added a lot of hype, the excitement in here. He brings crazy energy in here, so we just need a little bit of time off, rest, relax, chill. Working on a lot of stuff on the back end. You can see I've added a lot to my room back here, which we'll get into here in a minute. But Dan, kick it over to you, dude. How are you feeling? How's everything
feeling
going,
good, man? Wrapped up 2020. A crazy year, not a bad year, been a good year. Got myself promoted towards the end of last year. Finished up and walked into 2021. Finished up my real estate license. So things personally have been good. Took the time off to do a lot of things. I wasn't just sitting around, really just executing on some goals that I had set that, with the podcast and everything else, I just didn't have time to, dedicate that time. And I think taking the break really paid off. And this year, as you can see, we kicked off with a lot of new cool stuff. We got the big logo, brand new logo in the background, brand new intro video, and a couple of other things coming over the coming weeks. So I'm excited, man. I think the time off, we invested it the right way. And I'm happy to bring back a new refresh myself and Ryan to you all. And just looking forward to a big year.
Yeah, man, it should be. And you always put everything so eloquently. So beautiful, Dan. I absolutely love it. Because I was like, yeah, man, just need some time off. But no, man, we were doing a lot. I've been kicking up my personal training, doing mine and having clients over to do training, weightlifting. I do boxing and stuff for those of you that don't know. Which is another thing too you can expect this year. I'm looking to do just some quick videos. It's gonna be free for everybody. But sponsored the Casuals MMA. I'm gonna just do some quick drills if you want to learn how to box, kickbox, all that stuff at home. I'm gonna just do some quick 2 to 5 minute videos, teach you guys how to punch properly, all that. I coach. Why not have some fun with it and teach you guys as viewers? I'm sure you love it. I mean, you're here, you're listening to us talk, you're listening to the podcast, and you want to know what's going to happen with UFC 259 next weekend. You're obviously interested in it, so we're gonna give the people what they want. This is stuff that we were expecting to do last year before. Obviously, everything got crazy. We were planning on having guests every week and all this stuff. And then we were trying to figure out how it all works with COVID and everything. But I think this year is going to be the year where we really can do all those things. We expected to do it last year. We couldn't. We didn't have the opportunity. A crash and burn. We started out hot. We had 1 or 2 guests on. And then, as soon as COVID hit, it was just all right, well, we don't need to be having people over at the house in that close of quarters. But the good thing is then I finally got good internet where I live, so we can go live and obviously do what we're doing now, have videos, invite people on, all that stuff. But either way, anyways, you can see I finally added some stuff in the background. Oops, wrong side, this side. I have my old fight shorts up there. So I have the blue ones are actually
blood sport. Bring it back.
The blue ones are from Thailand. I had a buddy that I used to train with that my arm twitched. That was weird. I wasn't flexing, I promise. Those blue ones are actually from Thailand. So my buddy, he went over there. You can pay nothing, dude. And he went to, I think it was Tiger MMA out there to train for a little bit. And it cost nothing. I think he said he paid $1,500. It included room and board and training for 2 weeks and your food. So he ended up buying those, and then the Venom ones I fought in, and the Warrior ones up here in the top left. Ugh. Yeah, they or my left, your right, whatever. They're the ones I trained in a lot, so it was just cool to be able to throw those up. And then you can see I have a pass. That was a fighter pass from my last amateur fight back in 7-8 years ago when I met my wife. It was 2-3 months.
Mine just got a lethargic bearded dragon just laying around. So it did a great job. It looks amazing.
Hey man, that's why I wanted get the room decked out. But before I kind of felt weird because I'm doing an MMA podcast and then I have my whole Miami Hurricanes corner, college football, and then I have all my Marvel stuff over here. I was I really got to get some fight stuff in the background. I have a bunch of pops. I have all my favorite fighters and pops over here, but can't fit that in.
I actually even got one that you gave me. I got my little BJ pen rocking out with me on the show.
BJ. feel bad. That guy has not been able to stay out of trouble since he's like
Yeah.
semi-retired, you know? So I think he just gets bored. He doesn't know what to do with himself. He's like a teenage boy just running around causing trouble everywhere. You drinking Corona over there?
Man, leaving that fight game, that shit does, and that shit changes people. Think about Matt Hughes. He felt like he some people say he felt like he wanted to end it, but let's not get too far off in the weeds.
No.
Man, when you stop doing your passion, sometimes it impacts people in a different way.
For sure. And speaking of passions, man, I was itching to get back here and talk, man. Especially you've watched every single event, I think, which is an insane amount of events that the UFC has held, free or otherwise.
I gotta keep you entertained as well as the people listening.
Oh my God,
I gotta
dude.
keep you up to date.
But you and I, man, that's why I was like excited to get back on, because you know how it is. You and I just get so pumped. We're talking about the fights, and we're like, damn. So I was excited. I'm glad that the opportunity arose for us to be able to come back here. We did what we needed to do, and we're back, man. We're back. UFC 259. This was one we couldn't miss either. I mean, last year we talked about this too, and actually the last 2 years, I think, since we've done the podcast, it seems like the UFC does like one monster quarterly fight card. UFC 259 seems to be that one. Like Q1, March, for whatever reason, like Dana White loves doing it big, because we got 3 titles on the line next Saturday night. Woo! I mean, how can you not want to watch this? This thing's going to be, and I mean, the matchups are great, man. I can't wait.
No, they left no room. There is no bums on this card. Not, that many fighters are, but, sometimes you get those fights that are, a little slow pace, they're not going to really bring it. And you kind of lose your board. No, this is going to be back to back fucking mayhem. Contenders for performance of the night, contenders for fight of the night. I mean, this card is going to be lit. Yeah. And it's not like one of those things where like, the card's probably going to be really good. It's not a problem. It's not a maybe. It will be a fucking banger. I can't wait, man. Like even last night, when you look at last night's event, because it was Rosenstruck versus Cyril Gane. I kind of expected that, where it was just kind of, it's 2 big heavyweights. Rosenstruck can wait like a cobra, and Cyril Gane can push you and just kind of wear you out. So it's one of those where you're like, oh, that might be fun, it might be cool and everything, but not next week, man. Not next week. So I'm pumped. I'm excited. But let's real quick. Let's just touch on, man. Like, there's been so much that has happened in the last few months. I mean, we started all the way back in November, I think, is when we took started taking our time off. There's been so much that's been going on since then. What do you think has been like the biggest surprise to you, like with the fights, or what's been like the biggest draw, biggest memory that you can have? I think for me, the biggest thing, it's not necessarily because of the name, but because of what people had taken away from someone like him being impacted in that way. One was Conor McGregor's comeback against a very, very vetted Dustin Poirier, and losing that fight in a great fashion. But I think what has come about it and has been circled around a lot of roundtables, a lot of post-fight interviews, a lot of just rounding out the year, future looking, is the calf kicks. You saw it last night again. Sean O'Malley got fucking demolished this year as well, but nobody really talked about it as big until it impacted the biggest man in the sport. Mm-hmm. And a lot of fighters have started taking advantage of that. And I think the cool thing about that, and the crappy part, is like, you're cutting a fight short. Like, everybody wants to see somebody get knocked out. Nobody wants to see leg kicks. But the cool thing about it is it's going to open up a new realm, as you see every 5 to 10 years or maybe longer, a new realm of fighters. Because now you're going to start seeing these people against wrestlers or people that are not as great with their hands starting to utilize this move. And I think it's going to change the way MMA is fought. Before it was stand and bang, then people brought jiu-jitsu. And I think this is just another evolution of the fight sport. And I'm excited to see how people choose to defend that. And I hope that Conor McGregor is one of the first to show that you can beat somebody with something that will tear you down within minutes starting off a fight. So for me, that's the biggest thing this year so far. Hopefully there's more to come. I want to see Stipe and Ngannou, because I think that will bring a huge GOAT conversation to the mixed martial art world, and hopefully shut down some of the Tom Brady stuff after this year's big Super Bowl. A lot to look forward to this year.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Anything for you, Ryan, that you saw that really stood out this year big?
I think you touched on everything. I mean, obviously the biggest news that's going to transcend just MMA is anytime Conor McGregor fights. And I think that he touched on Conor McGregor is like Tiger Woods. He analyzes everything so well. And he's very forward, like he's very straight up. I mean, he said it after the fight, because that was my fear coming into the fight. Because to me, he's a better boxer than Dustin Poirier. Like, I love Dustin. He is the absolute man. He's a dog. But he's more precise, which we saw for the first round or so. But that's what happens when you sit out, man. That's why it's hard for somebody to sit out for so long. And that was one of my concerns coming in. When I was just having like those casual conversations, I'm like, if I have a concern with McGregor, it's that timing. People say ring rust ain't real. Get the hell out of here. Yes, it is. Ring rust is real because you're losing that timing. It's not there. You're that live timing of somebody moving in front of you that's trying to knock you out is for real. So it's different than sparring in the gym. But I think you hit it that and it's cyclical too. Like you were kind of bringing it up, which I'm kind of glad. We've seen the transformation of the stand-up in MMA, where I felt like a few years ago people weren't using leg kicks a lot. And now we're seeing people take the leg kicks to another level, literally down a level, actually, and kicking in the calf. Calf kicks are tough, man, because, like you can take a lot of damage up top, like on your quads and stuff, where typically you see like a lot of Muay Thai guys shoot is for your quadriceps, which is your upper leg above your knee. But you can kind of like work that and take that damage and just get acclimated to that. But when you're talking about calf kicks, you're talking about a kick coming straight into the muscle. That's pain, man. That's pain. Like you can't get away from that unless you start checking those kicks and finding out a way to like disperse that energy when they're kicking you. So to your point, like it's going to be interesting to see how people take it. There's been a lot of stuff this year going on, man. Holloway taking it to another level this year, I think against Cater was insane to see that he came out fast and just, I mean, he looked like the best Max we've ever seen. And we're going to see our fighters going to start stepping away, because the big thing the last two fights with Max Holloway says like he's not sparring. So are we going to start seeing that as a trend with a lot of fighters? Are they all going to stop sparring?
Yeah, no, I agree. A lot of times, I know you've made this argument a lot of times, and I've come to be in favor of it, is, you don't give somebody an automatic rematch. And I think in both fights, Max Holloway proved that he is the true champ. Unfortunately, sometimes you need to rattle people's cages, and sometimes you just need to go that extra mile. But I think Max Holloway showed that, there's no stop, there's no, let in the dog in that cage that he has. And, I think he's going to do some really great things. Hopefully we can get him on another card, maybe 2 fights this year.
Yeah.
I think he needs to be back on the throne, but
100%. That's why I hate to say it, but I want to see Volkanovski lose. So he needs to lose his next fight.
I would not mind watching him lose to Brian Ortega, boy.
No, Brian Ortega.
Brian Ortega make the changes to go against Holloway to retain the title. That would be a very impressive, amazing fight.
Yeah, because you have to justify the Volkanovski versus Holloway fight. They've already fought twice. And even though I don't agree with the second match, or, a lot of people don't agree with the results of the second matchup, because I think a lot of people thought that Holloway should have won that one. But it is what it is. The judges made their decision. So for me, there's no reason to go back and have that third fight yet. You have to make it a reason. And to me, Volkanovski loses. Ortega's the champ. Max Holloway fights Ortega, assuming that he wins, then that would set up a third match for those two to fight. But there's a lot. Essentially, what we're saying is there's a lot going on, man. The UFC is crazy. They're going crazy this year. I don't know. Is there anything else that you want to touch on before we kind of get into UFC 259? Because man, we got some stuff to talk about.
I don't want to spoil our weekly talk shows with going through too much of the things in the chamber.
Sure.
I got locked away.
For sure.
So no, I think that was great.
Yeah.
Great kickoff.
So a little heads up too, like a little bit of talk about the formatting. Just so you know, Dan's going to be showing up on the JP radio show in Tampa, which you can catch on fanstreamsports.com. You can catch those on, I think you're going to be on Tuesdays right now or Mondays?
Tuesdays. I'll be on Tuesdays.
Yeah, so he does his little like 10
Eastern.
I'm sorry.
And they'll be recorded, so you don't have to join live, or you can.
Yeah. Yeah, you can always go on to fanstreamsports.com. We have a ton of great sports podcasts on there. Those I love everybody else that's on the podcast. I listen
they
to
got
those
a great
guys.
crew.
Great crew on there. But then, JP does his live shows over the radio Monday through Friday. So Dan's going to be on there, which is going to be fun.
Don't forget to mention they cover all national sports.
Yes, they do. They do. It's out of Tampa, but we cover all
college too.
Yep.
So
Yep.
let's not forget that either. Because a lot of people like to listen to a lot of different stuff. That's why we join them, so that we can give our listeners, if they need a variety, or if their listeners need a variety, so this is a big growing family. I'm so happy to be a part of it. I don't want to leave that out. Like, only go there for us. No, there is anything and everything for everyone and anyone, to get their fix on, listening to what's coming up and making the right bets, and, forecasting the season. If, you got your, fantasy leagues and things like that, all of it's on there. So yeah.
Yeah. And man, those guys are on cloud nine, because even though we do like talk about sports, or everybody else talks about sports at a national level, they're still from Tampa. So like, to think about like how the Lightning have done, Tampa Bay winning the Super Bowl. Like, I think the Rays went to the World. Did they go to I think they made it to the World Series
last year.
Those guys are
actually up there watching the World Series games up in Tampa at the watch parties, which were pretty cool. Right. I was actually surprised at how well of a job they did with the social distancing and, being able to have crowds of people and actually still have a good time. Yeah. So that was an awesome experience. And that was actually the first time I met JP as well, was up in Tampa. So
yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, they do like a lot of live shows from some of the sports bars up there, which is pretty cool. I'd like to do that. The Casuals need to do that. We need to take ourselves out to the streets.
Yeah, we need to go hit some Hooters and some local pubs, some good stuff.
For sure, especially with St. Paddy's Day coming up. But anyways, yeah, back to some of our lineup. So we have Dan's going to be live on the radio. Again, catch that on fanstreamsports.com. That's another place to catch our podcast and everybody else's on the FanStream Sports Network. And then also during the week, we are going to have our fantasy draft picks. We're going to wait until Wednesday. I don't like to do them too early, because we're recording this. It's midday Sunday. A lot changes in a matter of a few days, especially leading up to the fight, where guys just aren't cutting well. And they get sick or whatever else, fallout, blah, 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 blah. Basically, we're going to wait. So, and we're going to have a little bit of fun this year. I think we're going to start out, we're going to do this format where we're going to only start with $5 and see how long it takes us to turn that into $100, because we were crushing it last year, man. Last year I was crushing on fantasy, and I was just like, man, I really need to, we really need to start tracking that. So we're going to turn $5 into $100 and see how long that takes.
Hey, man.
This year.
I made some really good money off of our bets, honestly, because, I can say for myself, I was killing you and Sean just on my predictions. And after a couple of times watching the predictions going against some of our listeners and you guys, I even started putting money on it, because I felt like at that point I was actually really realizing the talent that I was reviewing and translating that into my betting expectations.
Yep. So that'll be fun.
For that. That was a very cool ad last year that we started, that I started to utilize for myself.
Right. Yeah. And we're going to do that this year too. So we're going to have, and then we're going to do also some of our weekly or bi-weekly shows. So you'll catch all that ton of content. Like I said, we're back up, we're running, we're going 150%. So that's 2021 for us.
At 150 miles an hour as well.
Boom, baby. But let's go. We're at almost the 20-minute mark. Let's get into UFC 259. We're trying to keep these shows manageable for you guys to listen to at 45 minutes. So let's get into UFC 259. Dan, why don't you bring us in? Because I know there was a few fights on the early card.
Yeah, so typically, as you all know, we don't really like to go over the prelims, because we really want to focus on the pay-per-view main cards, because there's just so much going on. But I think, being that this card is so big in the middle of March Madness, they're even stacking the prelims. And there's two fights that I want to go over that I think everybody should, keep an eye on, and, definitely wait for the fireworks to hit. And the first one is Kai Kara-France against Botanaren. Reason that I bring that fight up is because, Kai Kara-France was delivered to all of us in a huge fashion that, he's going to be the next big guy. He was going to bring a lot to the table, and he kind of struck out. And I was telling Ryan before the show kicked off, the reason that I felt that is because 2 out of the last 3 fights that he lost were on huge cards. One was against Brandon Royval, who's another big top contender, hopefully getting himself fixed up. And that was on the Izzy Costa card. He lost that fight. The fight before that was against Brandon Moreno, who's going up against the title again against Figueiredo, which is another great person. That was on the Usman Covington card. So I sit here and say that this guy has a lot on his shoulders, but I feel like he loses in the spotlight. And some of these things, like you see in football, it's a higher climate, it's colder, more elevation. Some of these things you need to pay attention to when you're focusing on your betting is that, can this person overcome some of these things, a big spotlight, a big card, or are they going to overcompensate and fall short? Kai Kara-France has done that. Has he realized that? Is he going to change that and come back better? Against another great fighter, not very well known, but Montenegro, and it's going to be a banger. But for me, keep your eyes on Kai Kara-France. I don't want to go to bet on him yet. He's got a lot to give. Can he manage that overcompensation of these big cards and really pull out a big win? Ryan, did you have anything to share on that? I know you've been watching Kai Kara-France. You were actually the one to tell me about him, to keep my eye on him, so I have been.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it on the head. I mean, there's no sense in rehashing that one. I like that. You mentioned that one, and there was another fight on the card too that you had mentioned you want to watch, because I mean, to your point, there's a lot of fighters here.
The other one on the prelims that I'm really big on is the main attraction for the prelims was Dominic Cruz, which everyone knows, but which I didn't know but do know is Kenny, his opponent. Didn't know that he had 9 fights with the UFC against all vets, and he won most of those fights. The biggest thing for me is, can Dominic Cruz come off a loss when he came back for a title shot and come in and fight somebody like Casey Kenny and win? Or is Casey Kenny going to use Dominic Cruz, as you often see, as a catapult to getting his name being well known? So for me, I think these two fights are great fights. As you all know, Dominic Cruz is great on his feet, great on the ground. And Kenny is just going to, I feel like he's just going to come with a great game. Stand up. I think it's going to be a stand-up fight. But I think both these fights should be ones that you should watch, definitely on the prelims.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, to your point too, I mean, he beat Nathaniel Wood, who is another top contender. He was another hot prospect for this division. Louis Smolka, Manny Bermudez, Ray Borg, Brandon Royval back in LFA.
A lot of good guys, man.
Absolutely. I love Brandon Royval. That dude's just like a baller. Like,
it was sad to see him that he lost his last fight with his shoulder popping out in an awkward position when he thought that he was going to win that fight and put himself in the contender spot for the title. So do not sleep on this guy, Casey Kenny, man. He's coming in to fucking prove a point. And as you know, Dominic Cruz, he does not take losses lightly. He's extremely laser focused, and as you know, he's just a fucking beast. I mean, they even tried to throw him in the conversation of being the GOAT as the champ. I wouldn't necessarily throw him in there, but I mean, his fighting style, his fight IQ is off the fucking charts. And if you don't know, watch him on ESPN UFC Fight Pass to see his breakdown of fights. You'll learn a lot if you're a fighter yourself or a lover of the sport like me and Ryan, where you really want to hear how these transitions and things take place. He's
very analytical, but I feel like he's still too much in his own head. He says, I have no ego, and I feel like that's the complete opposite from the truth.
His ego outweighs his body size, that's for sure.
But the thing is, too, like, his whole game plan has always been based on speed, but between, like, him messing up his knees for so long and just getting older, like, that's the first stuff that goes is your speed and your reaction time. So I don't know if he's going to be the same.
On his feints and shit. Other than that, he didn't have quick hands. He didn't have very quick footwork. It was precision of both, but not quickness. Because you saw him against Cody Garbrandt. Jesus Christmas.
Yeah, he looked fast.
It was like the road runner against a turtle,
Yeah. And that's why I think that's the repercussions of being out of the fight game for a while. You can't that's the one thing that I like that boxing does is at least it gives its stars like time to come back. When they come back, they usually have like a warm-up fight. These UFC fighters, they never do that.
They do that.
Look at Cain Velasquez. He came in after like a 2 or 3 year layoff
against Francis Ngannou,
and then fights the scariest dude on the planet. Like, what the hell is that about? Like, if I was a UFC, he'd be fighting some
the names, man. And sometimes you got to give them credit. And sometimes you got to throw them under the bus for that one.
But to me, to me, there's a difference between having credit for being tough as nails and then being smart. Like all I'm saying is, I'm not saying like go on this career path where you have to have like a couple top 15, 20 fights. I mean, like guys in the 15 to 20 range in the rankings. But you need one comeback fight, like to get used to being in the cage, to used to being in front of the crowd, and most importantly, like that timing and hearing your corner yell at you. So to me, the UFC still needs to be able to do that with their stars because they're ruining their careers.
The biggest fucking downfall of that is you literally probably demolish that guy's confidence to want to come back after that.
Well, Kane retired after that.
I'm going to come back for. I'm not going to be a fucking, a guy that just gets knocked out for you guys to get pay-per-views and shit. Right. So yeah, it was a bad part because I think if he could have came back and won a fight, he may have stuck around a little bit. But after that, he's just like, yeah, screw this.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like that's kind of the same boat that Dominic Cruz is in. He came and fought Henry Cejudo, who was hot and coming off all these fights, and now he's fighting a young gun in Casey Kenny. But I feel like that's a good matchup. The only other one that I'll mention on here is Joseph Benavidez and Askarov, just because like this is Joseph Benavidez's last run at the title. If he doesn't make it, he's retiring.
I feel like everybody knows that. That's why I left it off. It's like he's a stepping stone, and I can't even say a good one because he looked like shit in both of those title fights that he didn't even deserve.
But you know what's the funny thing is though, he looks great against basically everybody else. Like most of his losses have been in title fights. DJ had his number. Davison Figueroa had his number, but otherwise he really doesn't lose a lot.
You got to get that R down, man. You got to start hanging out with some Spanish people. Figueiredo. All right, we gotta get that.
I'm Italian. You think I'd be able to roll my tongue like that? But the only fight, Figueroa. Oh my god! Like his last name for whatever reason messes me up. I'm actually usually pretty good with that, but it's his last name particularly. But Sergio Pettis is the only person that he's really lost to in the last 8-9 years that was a non-title fight. So like he's legit. He wins outside a non-title fight or outside of title fight.
Let me take back what I said. He didn't deserve the instant rematch.
No, he doesn't. I hate those.
He didn't deserve the rematch. So let me check myself real quick there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has everything to win and a lot to lose.
I agree with that 100%. But either way, like the prelims, they're going to be awesome. They're going to be good. They're fully loaded. We didn't get into it, and we're not going to. But the early prelims has like a good few fighters on here: Jake Matthews, Sean Brady at welterweight, and then we have the light heavyweight matchup with Kennedy and Carlos. That one should be good. The only reason is because Kennedy's last name is insane, so I never even tried to pronounce that. And then you have Tim Elliott down there too. You have a lot of good fights, man. Early prelims are going to be on UFC Fight Pass, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern. Then you have the prelims on ESPN and ESPN Plus. Those are going to start at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then obviously we get into the main card at 10. Dan, I need you to bring your patent Corrado energy. Corrado. See, I told you I can roll that.
Oh, yeah.
I need you to bring that passion. Bring us into this main card. Let's start talking about it. I'm gonna flip it over to you.
Yeah. So. As always, let's fucking go. Main card, pay-per-view. We're back. New logos, new entry videos. Me and Ryan are litty titty.
Should we
dragon back here?
Should we bring one of our videos as like an intro into the main card discussion?
Absolutely.
All right, hold on. Let's do this, baby. Hold on. I'm going to bring it in. All right. And then after this, I want you to intro UFC 259 main card. You ready? You ready, Dan?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it.
That was a good one, baby. You got to do a roundabout.
I'm sorry, I just get excited. Like that video is so awesome. I love that.
No, man, all the videos came out great. We have actually another one coming up for the weekly daily show. Hope you all guys like them. But yeah, what's that?
UFC 259 main card. Bring it in. Bruce Buffer this shit. Bruce Buffer it.
Bruce Buffer. No, I can't Bruce Buffer. I'm sorry.
Did you kind of get that? That was like a little bit of a pun too, because I was just saying Buffer, like his last name. Buffer,
Yeah,
whatever. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, but no. This main card, as I said earlier, is fucking stacked. We're in the middle of March Madness. Dana White always tries to outbeat them, and I think this time he outdid himself on this card. And we're kicking off with a banger. We're gonna have Rakic against Thiago Santos. On this one, we got the betting odds coming in with Thiago at a plus 135 against Rakic at a minus 152. 54% accuracy on this betting if you want to use it. Use these odds towards your betting. And I would 100% support that fact. Thiago Santos is coming off of a 2-fight losing streak. And you typically see that. You know, when you have a contender coming off a loss against the champ John Jones, you see that these people usually lose their next fight after. You saw that with Dominic Cruz. You saw that with Santos. You saw that with Alex Smith. And it's kind of like, you know, they're showing off a bit of nervousness to let go of their hands the same way they did to get to that spot as a title contender. And seeing how Santos lost, just in his last fight to Glover Teixeira, don't get me wrong, Glover Teixeira is a fucking beast, but Thiago Santos is a monster. He's young. He's in his prime, and he got outworked enough to get choked. I'm not really leaning towards him, against someone like Rakic, who's just a monster, a mauler in his prime as well. They're both big guys. I just don't see him outpacing Rakic. I don't see him translating the impact of the punches and kicks that he's going to receive from Rakic and being able to move forward through that fight.
Dan, I loved your analysis there. I loved it. You and I usually we usually are on two different ends of the spectrum when we're talking about this, but I loved your breakdown of that.
Yeah.
Thiago Santos, he looks what happens? What do you expect to happen after a guy gets both of his freaking knees? He has surgery on both of his knees because he tore MCL, ACL, he tore multiple ligaments in each knee. He looked stiff in that first one against Glover Teixeira. But at the same time, Glover Teixeira is not a bad person to lose.
No, but honestly, from the way Santos fights, he should have been able, almost like a King Kong gorilla, just come in, swinging, and just threw him off his game. But he was so nervous.
He looked like he was standing on stilts. That's the best way that I can put it. He looked like he was standing on stilts, and that obviously comes from his confidence in his knees and being able to keep them underneath him. Because to your point, I thought he should have been able to maul Glover Teixeira, but hopefully he got it out of his system because he has a hell of a fight. Rakic, I love this guy. He's great all around. He throws very awkward, punches and kicks. He'll change it up. I think that this is going to be a fun fight. I can see Rakic taking it either way. He very well could be taking Thiago Santos down to the ground, but that's not an easy feat either because Thiago Santos is a black belt in jiu-jitsu too. So this is going to be a fun way to start off.
Muay Thai against a Brazilian jiu-jitsu artist / kickboxing expert in Rakic. So a lot to take in. Yeah,
and just a quick run through the numbers. Significant strikes we're talking about. Santos is at 4.4, and then Rakic is at 5.1. So these guys have high output, which everybody would expect. Significant strikes is 47% to Santos to 52% for Rakic. Absorb per minute is 2.1 for Santos, so he takes a few less punches than Rakic at 2.4, and then their defense favors Santos too at 57% to 53% for Rakic.
Those are some big fucking numbers, man.
Yep. That means that's high volume. That is representative of these guys putting out fireworks, man. And I think to your point, this fight's going to be fireworks.
Yeah, so. And for a lot of people that don't know Rakic, a lot of people know Santos climbed to the title. But even to give you a little drool or tease, if you want to know who Rakic is, turn back to his fight against Jimmy Manuwa. He retired that man with that fucking head kick to the face. Even look at his Ozdemir fight, that he even lost that fight, but Ozdemir's not one to play with. Mm-hmm. And he looked phenomenal in that fight. So if you don't know Rakic, take a look at those 2 fights to get a sense. I always like to do my homework before I place a bet or before I make a decision on, just talking shit with somebody. So look at those 2 things and make your decision yourself. I'm going with the 54% accuracy from the betting odds that Rakic is going to win this fight. If you want, jump on the page, comment on when we post a video, and give some pushback. But I think that's all that needs to be said on that fight, and where I stand on it. Ryan, anything else you had to add on that, brother?
The only other thing is I was going to comment on is the grappling. But unless you don't want to touch on that, I can touch on the grappling.
Yeah, I don't really see both of them being clinch artist or takedown artist. I think it's going to be a banger. Unless if one of them bring it, it could throw the whole goddamn thing around. But yeah. Throw it out
like
there.
I said, Rakic is good everywhere, so I could very well see him saying, "Well, I'm going to take Santos's best tool away from him and pressing him up against the cage and trying to get him down." But the one thing with Rakic is his takedown accuracy is very low at 28%.
He's good with his range too, brother. He's got Rakic is a long dude.
Yeah, so I think he's got 2-inch reach advantage, right?
Distance, like Jones somewhat failed on letting him come in because he's so long.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. In the same regard, even though his takedown accuracy is low, his takedown defense is phenomenal at 88%. That's Rakic again. So that's pretty impressive. But other than that, yeah, I think you're right, man. I think that you kind of alluded to the fact that you're picking Rakic on here. For me, if I'm going with my safe bet, I'll pick Rakic just because, again, you never know what kind of guy is going to step back in that ring. Santos obviously looked very different against Clever Teixeira, and we don't know if he's fully back yet. So if I had to pick a safe bet, I'm going to go with Rakic in this fight. I see him coming out on top. He's just going to be able to take a decision from Santos.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's one of those fights that I've learned from both you and your brother Sean is that sometimes going to the decision wasn't a bore. Going to decision actually made it that much better. And I think this fight is actually going to be that to the point of you and your brother Sean for sure.
For sure. So I like it, man. Those are our picks for that one. Do you want to bring us into the next match?
Absolutely, because this one is, for me, is going to be a show-out fight. And not for both competitors, but for one of them, and I'll get into that in a second. So the next fight we have is Islam Makhachev, or I don't know if I pronounced that right or chopped it up, versus Drew Dober, Pretty Boy. The betting odds on this one are a -340 with Islam and a +245 against for Drew Dober. Little bit of background: Islam fights out of Dagestan, Russia, and he comes out of the San Jose, California gym, with Daniel Cormier. He's fighting under the late Khabib's father, Nurmagomedov Sr. Yeah. So his style is Sambo. Originated in Russia, internationally practiced wrestling style. So just with that background alone, you know that this guy is top heavy. He's going to take you to the ground. He's going to maul you no matter what. He's like Khabib. The cool thing about this is he's won 6 of his last fights. But where I challenge him, where I want to see him go is he needs to start building that highlight reel. Not great wins, but wins that are great wins, but he needs not great wins. He needs impressive wins, and he hasn't had those. And I feel like with somebody like Drew Dober, who is super top heavy in his takedown defense, extremely great with his striking, I think that he can bring the best out of Islam, who also is a decent striker. I think he's a better striker than Khabib, if you ask me. And his ground game is just absolutely insane. So I think this fight is going to be great. Dober's walking into this with 16 fights under his belt in the UFC. 3 of his last fights he has won by KO. So for me, this fight is going to be amazing. I think it's going to be stylistically a wrestler against a fighter. But if the fighter can bring out the fighter and the wrestler, we're looking at fireworks. You don't typically see that, but sometimes that opponent just brings that out, and sometimes you just have no fucking choice because you want to prove something. And I think Dober can get into his mind that way to bring it to that type of fight. But a lot of the times, the Nurmagomedovs don't break that concentration of getting it to the ground, but I hope that Dober can do that. So I'm excited for this fight. I'm gonna go with Islam either which way with how much I hyped up Dober, because I worry about the later rounds, that constant takedown. And if you can get back up, that it's just going to wear on you, that you just can't do anything about it. And also my second point is you've never seen anybody clip a Nurmagomedov or somebody from that camp and knock them down. So I'm hesitant. I just want to see him begin his reel of impressive wins versus great wins. But, you know, like I said, those are my points. I'm going to go with Islam winning that fight. I don't want to call it because I'm on the fence, but I'm shooting for Islam on that one.
Good. Well, I got a decision on this one. By the way, 2 for 2 for you. I was like, yeah, Dan was hitting all the great freaking points that I was going to hit. So that was fantastic. If I had to break this down real fast, because I know we kind of want to move along here and get into the main card stuff. Drew Dober's a good vet around the UFC. He's very top heavy, like you said. He's going to come in. He's going to ball out. He does have a few TKOs. Obviously, that's your trade-off when you're talking about a guy that's at lightweight but 5'8". Is he's going to be top heavy. He's going to have good hands that we typically see. But I think the thing for him that we're going to watch is that his takedown defense. We've seen him get taken down and essentially get his ass whooped. So his takedown defense is not great. And when you're fighting a guy like Makhachev, I think he's just going to absolutely get worked. This is going to be a grappling match, 100%. Like, this is time for Drew Dober to step up. It's going to be. But Makhachev has really, as you pointed out, like his striking looked excellent last time. I think it was Davi. It was like Ramos. I know who it was. It was that kid Armin Sarukian. Like, he was supposed to be a hot product coming in. And then I think Makhachev got a decision from him, but his hands look good, like very, very, very good. And you mix that in with his sambo. I think that he's going to be pressing Drew Dober. He's going to put him on the ground. He's going to punch him out. But I think the thing that's exciting
David Ramos was his last fighter, and then Armin Tarshkevan.
Yep, that's the one. Yeah,
right before that.
Yeah,
and, he got, I believe, performance on the night on that fight that you were talking about. Yeah. He showed his hands on that fight.
Boom. So that's going to be his advantage here. Is I think he's taller, he's longer.
Wins. He's had 2 KOs out of his 6. He's been a great fighter. It's just something about, no matter what, whether it's him or Khabib, they still don't get that uproar from the fans, that uproar from media. It's just, they don't bring it. They're not shit talkers. They're too fucking humble. You know, they're not exciting fighters. Like, if you want to give that shine, let's get some impressive wins. Yes, Khabib has beaten the best of the best, but they are not impressive wins to a fighter's fan, to a fighter fanatic like we are. To watch somebody execute their style. So I heard this yesterday during The Last Dance. It was one of the coolest things. It's like poetry in motion. That's what Khabib and the Nurmagomedov family does. It's poetry in motion, the way they fight. For most people, it's boring. For us, it's like, holy shit, you just beat the best fighter by crawling around on this guy like a spider monkey. That's impressive.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people don't understand, man. It is impressive. Like, when you can just absolutely negate another fighter's ability to initiate their game plan and do what they want to do, the way that the Khabib camp does, or like GSP used to do. Like, that's impressive on another level. I know you have the people that just want to tune in and see blood and, want to see guys swinging for the fences, but and we all do. We like that. That's what the heavyweight division to me is for the most part. But man, like, to me, to watch people that can just be absolutely dominant, like a Khabib, is phenomenal. But I think to that point, that's why I have Islam here winning this one big. And then what are the fight odds for this one? I think
I mentioned it before. So it was a -340 Islam and a 245 on Drew Dober.
Okay. Hey, real quick too. Where are you getting your numbers from? Because I want to make sure that we tell everybody that.
Hold on, I forgot what it was.
Yeah, just a quick notice too. Like, if you're watching our video and not listening to the audio, the numbers that you see rolling across the screen are from Bovada. That's my favorite one that I like to utilize. But you can have, the odds are different everywhere. It's usually only by like 5-6.
Yeah, not too far off. But
precisely.
Honestly, to Brian's point, everyone listening, I would stick with Bovado. They are a lot more accurate. For me, I was just using straight Google search, which probably takes like an average mean of everyone. But Bovado is like on point. So I would definitely go with what Ryan has on the bottom for sure.
It's I think you're probably right. If you're Googling the odds like that, it's probably like an average breakdown because there's a ton of sites that compare all the different ones. But Bovada just to me is like one of the bigger betting sites. So that's why I like using them. But I mean, it just depends on where you step on. I'm just letting you know the odds that you're seeing right now. This is as of like midday Sunday that we grab these from Bovada. So just as a little precursor when you hear us throwing down the numbers. But I think that those numbers that we saw, minus 360 for Islam, for Dober, it's the plus 270, big time favorite for Islam. I agree with it. I'm going with him. That's who I'm picking on Saturday to win.
Absolutely. I just, and another thing that I would like to see, not just from the Nurmagomedov family, but from fighters in general, when asked the fucking question, especially by Michael Bisping, have a fucking answer of who you want next and why. Stop with the, well, I'm not sure. Maybe that. No, call somebody out, get the goddamn fucking fight on the books, and let's go. I'm tired of fighters wanting to fight for money, wanting to fight because they deserve it. No, throw in the goddamn fucking mitts and let's go. If you're a fighter, you fight anyone. And I would like to see that from the Nurmagomedov family, is them calling out some people. And I think after this fight, Islam, as he's moving up the rankings, should call out a big fighter next. I'm not going to say who. I'll leave that to you. But they need to start doing that more often.
Yeah, well, he's at number 14 in the lightweight division. This should shoot him up if he beats Drew Dober closer to that top 10. The top 10 is just flooded with talent. So you should definitely want like somewhere in that 5 to 10 range. You know, you always call out higher. Like you call out somebody in that 1 to 5 range and you land.
You don't want to be obnoxious. Like, I want to fight Stipe Miocic. Like, dude, you're fucking.
Yeah, or even the title hold. You know what I mean? Like you don't call out Dustin Poirier, but you call out somebody in that like 2 to 5 range, and then you fall short with negotiations with the UFC, and you fall somewhere in that 5 or like 6 to 10 range. That's realistic.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's it. I love that. That was a great breakdown. We're at the 45-minute mark. We said that we were only going to make it 45 minutes. We never do. Dan and I like talking way too much. So let's get into the fun shit. 45-minute mark. We're getting into the championship shit. Dan, bring us in.
That's what it is. 45 minutes, then championship fights. Okay, guys and gals. So the next fight for me is fucking huge because we got Long Island's own Aljamain Sterling fighting out of black belt jiu-jitsu under Matt Serra in Long Island, New York. So I'm excited for this title fight. I've been waiting for Aljamain to get this title fight for a long time. Unfortunately, that he had a little bit of a short, stoppage to his run when he got capsized by a sick knee from Brandon Marias. Marias, I don't know his first name. Correct me if I'm wrong. So this fight is insane. And then on the other tail of it, because of me being true to my roots, I can't sit there and say that this is not going to be the absolute toughest test against Petr Yan, who has been a absolute animal savage coming into the UFC. He has a style of Tiger Muay Thai and boxing against a stand-up striker / absolute all-American, infamous grappler wrestler. Now, if you really think about it, let's just take stats here. Aljamain Sterling has had 14 fights. 11 out of his 3 he's won, and he's still on the title run. He's finally getting a shot. Petr Yan came in the UFC with only 6 fights in 2 years and is a champion. And during that run, he has absolutely torn up some of the greatest fighters. He even demolished, I don't even know if that's the best word, the GOAT of that weight class, Jose Aldo, like if it was absolutely nothing. He is just an absolute monster on the ground, absolute monster and precise on his standing game. I'm excited to see where he goes in his career, win or lose. Petr Yan from Russia is someone to follow throughout his entire career. The guy is just a fucking stunner. Now, against that, I'm rooting for Sterling. I'm excited about Sterling. In his last fight, he had fight performance of the night.
Well deserved.
And I want to bring it back up again. He's one of those people that live by it and he exemplifies it. He's like a spider monkey when it comes on the ground. His ability to transition from top game to side game to ultimately, which is his number one favorite, getting you on the back and just choking you out, which he won his last fight by, is absolutely insane. in which he also won performance of the night. The guy is an absolute stud. So for me, I'm going with Aljamain Sterling just because I need to stick to my roots, knowing that he's from Long Island. But it's going to be an absolute hard-fought battle because Jan is amazing, both on hand and ground. So that's my side of the story. Ryan, what do you got to add on that? And actually, you know what? I didn't get the odds for this fight. Do you have the odds?
I always have the odds, baby. I always have it. Dan, where are you from, by the way?
Long Island, New York, baby.
Oh, I thought we should add that as a proof.
Or do I need to say it a little bit more?
Yeah, but no, I think that you had a good assessment there. This one's gonna be tough for Sterling, man. Especially coming in. He's had like a long-ish layoff because he was staying hot until like 2019, and then he really only fought one time last year because he and you know, I don't blame him. Like
he was waiting for the fight he thought he deserved.
Yes,
fresh.
He absolutely deserved to be fighting Jan as much. And you know, Jose Aldo is one of my favorite fighters, but Jose Aldo should not have been fighting at the 135 belt before Sterling. I thought that was kind of messed up that he had stepped in there, but it was clearly because UFC was giving Aldo a shot. Seeing Jan just outstrike Jose Aldo, I think, was super impressive. Even though we haven't seen Jose Aldo like look like himself for a long time, I still think that his precision and his boxing has always been better. Like
gas tank is gone, dude.
It's gone. It's
gas tank.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at like when the first two times he fought Holloway, he looked like the crisper fighter in the first round or two. Like he was landing the better shots, he has better accuracy, but Max Holloway just runs you over. I think the thing I was telling against Jan is that Jan picked him up hard, man. Like it wasn't even close. Like he looked to brutalize Aldo. So I think that this. Go ahead.
Cut you off. I apologize, but Petr Yan, like, dude, he fights like a fucking heavyweight, and he scrambles like most of the guys in his weight class.
Yeah,
like his hand velocity, his hits, dude. He hits like he's got boulders in his fucking head. You see what he did to Uriah Faber? Jesus Christmas. That guy should retire after that fight.
It's going to be interesting. I'll tell you that. I mean, you know, I will say like Aljamain Sterling looked fantastic. Like to go against somebody like Corey Sandhagen and to finish him like that. I mean, you're talking about Corey Sandhagen, who is a guy that just came off a flying knee knockout of Frankie Edgar. He knocked out Marlon Moraes. That's two hell of fights coming, or finishes at least, coming back to back after his initial loss versus Sterling. But I think it's going to be a little tough for Aljamain coming in. He's obviously going to try and utilize his wrestling. 100%. Like to me, Sterling needs to focus on his grappling, his ground game. He needs to find a way to mess up Jan and get him to the ground. In the stand-up,
let me ask you a question though.
Go ahead, shoot.
Do you think Aljamain Sterling, as good as he is on the ground, can deal with how strong Petr Yan is, or do you think Petr Yan will be able to get him? Who do you that's
the thing that's always
physical out wrestle. Wrestling is using somebody's body weight against them. How do you feel about that? Like what happens when it goes on the ground? Because it's going to end up there.
That's the thing that's impossible to tell, man. You just never know like how one guy's strength is going to translate into a fight until they're matched up with guys. We've seen it all the time where a guy looks like on paper he should be much stronger than the other. And it's leverage, it's getting down, it's what you train for, what you prepare for, hooks, getting your hooks in, getting your sweeps timed right, like
grabbing the forearm, the wrist.
Yeah, wrist control, like that's probably the biggest thing on the ground is wrist control. So being able to put the guy's hand that's on top of you on the bottom. But I mean, it's impossible to tell, and I think that's probably one of the harder things to predict coming into a fight is how two guys' strength is going to translate. Because I mean, there's so many factors that go into it, and then you're also talking about like your weight cut and shit.
Okay, I just wanted to put you on the spot because for me,
yes, go ahead.
I'm not that analytical when it comes to those things. I don't have that fighter's IQ like you do because of your experience in it. So I just honestly wanted to know like what you think, and I think that was the perfect answer. Is don't assume.
I mean, if I had to say anything, obviously on paper, I think Aljamain Sterling has the grappling advantage here because he trains out of Long Island with Matt Serra. That's Chris Weidman's camp. He has the wrestling background. Like that's his base. That's his base right there. Obviously, his striking is coming.
You can almost say wrestlers win fights like defenses win football games. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But at the same time, like Jan's from Russia, man. They have that sambo there. Those guys know how to stay up. They know how to stand upright. So it's gonna be tough, man. I love Sterling. I think he's awesome. I love Jan. I think he's awesome. I think Sterling absolutely deserved a title shot, and I'm glad that he waited for it. But
good for him. I just hope I just hope it doesn't end up turning into one of those things like you got what most people don't like to agree with, but some do. You had fucking ring rust, bro.
You do, 100%. There's no doubt about it. I don't care what anybody else says. I'm telling you right now, there is ring rust, 100%. I'm telling you there is. Yeah, all right, but
let's why I throw it out there. I'd like to piss you off sometimes.
No, you said what I was agreeing to. So the Vegas actually sees this as close as we do. Like Jan is the -135 favorite, but I mean that's really close to Sterling's +120. So that's telling me that people that are looking into this fight and analyzing it, they're having a tough time picking them out too, man. Like my gut would tell me Jan has the advantage here. He's on the hot streak. If you look at who he's fought recently, right? Like in the UFC, you're like, damn, that is a list of guys at that division. Jose Aldo, Uriah Faber, both by knockouts, by the way. Well, technically.
I'm going to combat you on this. So when
hold on 1 second. Jimmy Rivera, John Dodson, Douglas Silva de Andrade. I mean, that's a list of names in a row that he's been able to finish or beat.
So I'm gonna play the opposite end on this. Not only because where my roots come from, being from Long Island, meeting Matt Serra and getting to know him. As a couple of my friends actually train at their gym, not fight, but train. I'm going to go with Aljamain Sterling on this. Yeah. I feel like he has the record. He has the fights under his belt in the UFC, underneath those big spotlights. And I think since his loss, which was an absolute mistake, like sometimes you get caught. Yeah. Ever since he got caught, never once has he put himself in a position to ever have that happen again. And for me, he's hungry. But when you put culture into things sometimes, and that is a factor, like Russian people are just built different. Their bone density is different from being out there. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. But I'm going to go with the fact with his title name, Funk Master Flex, I think he's going to pull funky ass goddamn shit. And I think he's going to get the better of Petr Yan. I think this is going to be a title defense that you actually see. Is he the champion? Or he couldn't outweigh the pressure that comes with it. Yeah. And for me, I'm going to go with Funky Master Flex. He's going to do something funky. He's going to fuck him up. I would love to see a finish, choke or knockout. But it can end up going to the decision. Like I said, if the wrestling does not translate because how strong Petr Yan is, it will go to a decision. Yeah.
I like that we finally disagree on this one, but I love, like, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if Sterling won because like I said, I like him. I love him. He's great. I'm just going with my gut feeling because I have to pick somebody. So I'm going with Yan because of his track record and because of his strengths.
Prove me wrong. That's what we're here for.
Hey, man. So here, let's just hit some numbers real quick, and then we'll move on to the next one. So we're talking about significant strikes. Both of these guys are very, very high output, which you always expect from lower weight classes. Jan's has the advantage at over 5.5 landed per minute to Sterling, who has a very high number for himself at 4.8. Significant strike landed percentage favors Sterling actually at 50% to Jan's 46. And then actually Sterling takes less punches. He's at absorbed per minute is at 1.94 to Petr Yan is at 3.16. And then the big one, like here, I think this is going to be the most telling part of this fight is going to be the grappling part. Both guys actually have pretty decent takedown average per 15 minutes at just under 2. Takedown accuracy, I think this is a little misleading here, but Yan is at 53% to Sterling Aljamain's 29%. Takedown accuracy, I will say the only thing there is that might be a little bit misleading because he likes to do a lot of feints, and that's how he works into his stand-up is like feinting, like he's going to take you down and hitting you. So don't take that number into account too high. Takedown defense is at 51% for Sterling. Big number for Jan at 87%. But I don't feel like he's fought too many guys that are looking to take him down like Sterling, I believe, will. Otherwise, that's it, man. That's where we're at. I think the only other telling number, submission average, Sterling's almost at 1 per fight, so that means he likes to finish fights on the ground.
Boy, if he can trigger and what's the word that I'm looking at when like a superhero transforms? What's that called? The word's escaping me. But if he can trigger that little spider monkey shit, it's a wrap, bro. You cannot get that motherfucker off you. I don't care what.
Yeah, and I think that's it for us. We already went over the odds. Let's get into this. Keep this time short. We're already over an hour right now, so let's get into the co-main.
Respectfully ask. I always love, Ryan, how you kick off Amanda Nunes's fights. I ask that you take this one and kick it off because I love how you cover Amanda Nunes, and since you've led me down such a great path, being a part of this, the co-main and the main event, I'd love for you to cover because let's fucking go.
All right, baby. Let's bring the energy. We are going to have two savage
odds, please, though. You blew my mind with this one.
With the fight odds? Oh, my God. All right, so let's get into this. Let's get into the co-main and the main event of UFC 259. These ones are both fire. These ones are going to be –
Should we play a video again? Should we play another video?
Let's play the video again and drop it on these bitches. Should I do the same one, the gold one? You want me to do the same one, the gold one?
Absolutely.
All right, drop this shit on this bitches.
I think
co-main event. Oh, I was coming in hot, dude. You ruined my vibe right there. Co-main event. Amanda, the Lioness Nunes, is coming out of her den to fight Megan Anderson. Megan Anderson was literally brought in to be food for Amanda, the Lioness Nunes. Okay, let me tell you what. Amanda is going to annihilate Megan Anderson in this fight, and I'm willing to put money on that shit. But the Lioness has every advantage in this fight right now. She's coming in to fight Megan Anderson. Megan Anderson, like, girl, they brought you in to do some big things in the UFC, but boo-boo, that ain't you. Not against Amanda. You're going to get your ass whooped. Yes, you have the size advantage, but so did Cyborg. And then Cyborg took a nice long nap. Dude, this fight is going to be insane. Megan Anderson, she's clearly shown that she's still a one-trick pony. I actually do like her. She's cool. Like, I listen to her shit. I've seen her videos. Like, she is cool shit. But she ain't got it, man. She ain't going to do this. Like, she lost to Felicia Spencer. She got whooped all around by Holly Holm. You think that you're going to be able to come in there and fight Amanda Nunes? Amanda Nunes is talking about this is possibly her last fight, which I don't blame her. Like, this might be her retirement fight because there's nobody else left for her. Megan Anderson, again, was brought into the UFC with a lot of hype around her to come in, challenge for the title. That obviously did not pan out. She's hit a few roadblocks. Amanda Nunes is not the person that you want to come face-to-face with when you've hit a few roadblocks. I mean, sure, maybe she's put together, 2 nice fights, but, I mean, not at the same level that the Lioness is right now. She is going to come in. She is going to feast. This is going to be a stand-up battle. You were talking about power versus length. Amanda Nunes is going to find her way into the pocket and knock Megan out. I'm putting it down. Otherwise, she's going to turn this into a bloodfest, and Megan's going to take punishment for 5 rounds. One of the two. But either way, the Lioness will feast. Any comments, Dan? Did you like have you just like totally went out? I brought all this energy.
I'm just digesting all the great vibes. I'm digesting all the great support for what I would absolutely go to bat for, which I don't go to bat for often, which I absolutely don't necessarily bring up often because it's a big discussion. And when you walk into that room to have that discussion with any kind of fan, you're going to get arguments. So when I come with an argument, I want it to have a lot of substance. And for me, if Amanda Nunes can pull this off, drop the fucking mic, drop the goddamn belts, you are the GOAT. She has taken out every single woman fighter within 2 weight divisions, and not just like take them out. It was an absolute ass every fucking time.
Dismantle.
And I mean, against wrestlers, boxers, fighters, jiu-jitsu artists, she just demolished. As simple as like, watching a domino goddamn thing go down. The only thing that I'm a little bit hesitant about saying that, it's going to be a walk in the park is Megan Anderson is a big, big lady. She's got sizable height, not sizable reach advantage, but the way she fights long.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason that I will sit there and say that I'm hesitant to say Megan Anderson can win this fight is because I feel like Amanda Nunes fights people that uses their range. She beats them at their own game.
Mm-hmm.
She comes in and she pushes the pace. She may have a good chance of catching her. But if she thinks that she's going to pick Amanda Nunes apart, I'm sorry, you're fighting a lion. You're not going to fucking wave something in front of a lion's face and expect them to sit there and wait. No, they're going to kill you to get the meat you have left on you and the meat that you were dangling in their face. That's it. Do not fight a range game with Amanda Nunes. You're not going to beat her at it.
Holly Holm learned that.
I believe that you'll beat her by catching her in a goddamn phone booth fight. And I don't think Megan Anderson has those. I don't feel like Megan Anderson has that courage within her to do that. Yeah. So I see her losing this fight.
Yeah.
And I don't see it going to a decision either. And even if it does, Amanda Nunes has gone 5 rounds and she's got gas in the tank. She's fighting natural weight. And on top of it, now she has a family to win for. So her hunger is even bigger. She just had her baby.
Yeah.
She is going out with a fucking bang. And
she doesn't have to cut weight, like you said.
Fucking way. That's how I look at it. When you what's that?
No, I was gonna say I think you hit it. I mean, she doesn't have to cut weight. She's coming in fresh, man. 145. I mean,
she looks good. I mean, she looks well, she doesn't look as fit, but that's where she's at.
Dude, well, this is all. Trust me on this. This is not going to be a grappling match. This is going to be a stand-up match. Like, there's hardly any even grappling numbers for these two girls. Now, don't get me wrong. Amanda's great on the ground. I'm pretty sure she has a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but we haven't seen it in so long because she's just been able to do whatever the hell she wants in all of her fights. I mean, this thing, I'm telling you, man, it's not going to be close. Sure, Megan does have the height advantage, but I mean, 5'8" to 6 foot, but it's not like Nunes hasn't done that already. You know what I mean? She hasn't fought tall
she
people.
Up-kicked Holly Holmes and knocked her out.
Done. Out. Peace. Sayonara. Like, it's gone. But, dude, like, let's just look at some of the significant strikes. This is telling. Landed per minute. Amanda, 4.4. Megan Anderson, 1.8. To your point, you're not going to be able to sit on the outside all day and be able to jab her to death. That ain't happening. Significant strikes landed, 51% for Amanda, 43% for Megan. Ouch. Guess who that favors? The one that hits harder. It's not you. Absorb per minute, 2.65 is a fantastically low number. For Amanda, that means you're not going to hit her as much as she's going to hit you because guess what? Megan's is higher at 3.12. So that's not a good number. If your landed per minute is at 1.8 and your absorb per minute is 3, that means you're taking 2 more punches than you're giving. Not good, especially when you're talking about somebody that you're not going to have a power advantage over. And then defense for Amanda, 57%. That is insane. That is insane. And then grappling numbers, that I think really, like, there's basically no grappling numbers for Megan Anderson. And then Amanda's mostly comes from earlier in her career because she's been striking for so long now at this point that I don't even know if those are relevant at this point. No, this is going to be a demolishing. And let's kind of lead way into this by saying the numbers from Vegas tell us this. Okay, Nunes is a minus 1,200 favorite to Anderson's plus 700. So that means you have to bet $1,200 to win $100 on Amanda Nunes winning. That's not even worth it. It's worth it.
Bet on both because either which way you're gonna win something,
bro. Like to me, it's almost worth just throwing $100 on Megan Anderson because if she wins, you're going to multiply your winnings by your input by 7. That's what that means. So plus 700. That means if you throw $100 on her, you're gonna win $700. Damn. Absolutely insane numbers. Vegas agrees with us. I don't even know. Is there even anything else? I mean, she walks away. I agree. She's the GOAT. Like, it's not even close for the women's division. Like, she is 100% the GOAT. No questions, comments, concerns. There's nobody else left for her to fight, so I don't blame her if she drops the mics, throw her gloves on the ground, whatever she wants to do to say, like, I'm done fighting. She has a family now. She's probably made her money, I would think, at this point. She was even talking about or floating around the idea last year. I think Megan Anderson was the last person for her. She destroys her. There's no other fights left for her. Cyborg's gone, so there's no rematch there. It's done. It's over. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean there is nothing else, but
No.
because I love both the fights, I would love to see her go against Shevchenko one more time. I probably won't see it, probably won't get it. Not that Shevchenko really even had, any room in that fight to say she won. It's just sometimes over time you just see fighters really nail down their mistakes.
And sometimes, man, you just have like an antithesis. Like everyone, everybody has their like person that they can't perform the same way. And Amanda Nunes and Shevchenko seem to be that way with each other. It's like they just because Amanda Nunes, that was a close the second fight too. Like that should have been a draw. There was no reason nobody should have won that one because like they just couldn't figure each other out, and there were so few punches thrown. But I think it's just because it was such high level. Both these women are trying to read each other and they couldn't. So, I mean, everybody has their antithesis. Anderson Silva had Chris Weidman. You know what I mean? Like, what is it? Benavidez had DJ. Everybody does, man. Everybody does. So I think that those two. But at this point, honestly, I think Shevchenko's doing great where she's at. There's no reason for her to go up and fight Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes, you technically won it twice, so there's no reason for you to fight again. Call it quits, man. I'm done with it after this one in a positive way.
Yeah, but I'd hate to give her that. As a fight fan, I'd love to see her keep fighting no matter what.
Oh, for sure. But at the same time, like you would love to, but you can't maintain that same level for years and years and years, man. It just doesn't happen. And to me, I'd rather see a champ go out on top. You're a winner. You fucking proved it. You've beat everybody that's anybody, as some of them twice. There's no reason to fucking wait until you start getting knocked out. There's no reason to Roy Jones Jr. it. You know what I mean? Like, quit while you're ahead. So, but man, I think that's it. Like, do you have any other closing thoughts on that, co-main? Like, I think this is going to be a feast. The man is going to get inside, knock her out.
The fights like this, there's really not much to say to it. There's really not much to give the viewers on it. That's why I went so hard at the beginning of this. These when you get to these fights and at this level, it almost speaks for itself. I can't say the same for the main event because somebody's moving up. But when it comes to something like this, I mean, it's fucking black and white. Amanda should not lose this fight. And if she does, it's because she got clipped. And it wasn't because she wasn't ready for it. It wasn't because she wasn't prepared for it. It was like a fucking accident.
Yeah.
Which would be great for the sport, but not great for her. But no, that's about it.
Yeah. I like it, man. Well, I think that's good. I think we're done. We already hit the numbers on that one. I think that one speaks for itself. Amanda Nunes is going to come out on top. I'm calling it right now. I think she's going to retire in the cage. But anyways, let's get to the main event, baby. This one's going to be exciting. Another insane fight. This is going to be another stand-up battle. We have Jan Blachowicz versus Israel Adesanya. Man, this is going to be a great fight. This is such a great matchup. No, Jan's somebody that flew under the radar for a long time, but he's somebody that you had to keep your eye on. And it's just so awesome to see that these guys, that Adesanya is so willing to come up. Like, there's other contenders at middleweight, and he said, nope, I want to go up and fight. So he's fighting Jan, a tough, big, natural 205 guy who's beat Dominic Reyes by TKO, Corey Anderson by knockout, Ronaldo Souza absolutely destroyed Luke Rockhold's whole jaw and may have put him into retirement. This is a great freaking matchup. I'm so excited to see how this one turns out. And, with Adesanya coming up, you would think that he doesn't have like the physical advantage, but he's actually taller. He's actually a taller dude by 2 inches. I don't even know what the reach is. Okay, so Adesanya actually has a 2-inch reach advantage on Jan. So he does have like physical, even though he might not be as physically strong, he does have an advantage physically in his height and his reach. This is going to be a fun freaking fight, man. I can't wait to see how this one goes. I'll flip it over to you before I go into any more like specifics.
But before flipping it over, I want to get your Why do you think it's going to be so fun? And the reason I asked that question for our viewers is because I love your stylistic analysis. Why is
Yeah.
the fight for you going to be fun?
Yeah, man. So Jan is a good counter striker, but he's also a very accurate and powerful puncher. So this is going to be a great matchup for here. I think Izzy's going to take a little while. Like this isn't going to be Yoel versus Izzy. You know what I mean? Where that one just absolutely turned into a dud. That happens occasionally. This one isn't going to be that because Jan does engage, but he is going to also wait and see and feel Israel Adesanya out. Izzy's obviously going to be working outside. He's going to be trying to avoid any takedowns. Jan's not particular to that, but he's a great all-around MMA fighter, so there's no reason why like he walks into this fight and says, well, this guy's had 83 kickboxing matches and has absolutely demolished everybody in the stand-up, so maybe I'll take him down. You never know people's game plans when they come in, regardless of what they say in the media. That could all be hype and bullshit that they're saying. So Izzy's going to stay along the outside. He's smarter than that. He knows that. He's going to test his strength against Jan, you know, when and if Jan tries to take him down. So I feel like the first round is going to really be a feel out round. And then we're going to start to see it pick up after that while these guys both start to land punches and kicks and start to feel each other out. But we've seen Izzy can beat big, strong guys. He beat the freaking crap out of Costa, man. Somebody that can bring the heat and probably would be a very natural 205 guy in Paulo Costa. So this one's going to be fun. But Jan just does all the technical stuff right, man. Like he counters very well. He waits well. He's smart, and he knows how to use his striking so well. So, I mean, honestly, man, this is going to be a great fight. I'm excited for this one to see like how these guys match up with each other.
Yeah, no, I think that's a perfect point. And I feel like Izzy really needs to bring it to this fight. And I'm sure there are gaps in Jan Blachowicz' fighting style but the thing for me that draws me somewhat at a standstill and puts me on the fence here is the fact that I don't think, like I always say it, if and when Izzy tries to fight a fight and gets hit by someone like a real man and gets hit, I don't know if he's going to be able to take it. You know, and I said to myself, and I said to you and Sean, like, if he gets hit by Paulo Costa, is he going to be able to handle that? Because he almost couldn't handle it with Kelvin Gastelum.
He took a lot of shots from Kelvin, and Kelvin's knocked out guys at middleweight.
But Jan Blachowicz, bro, that Polish power translates different. You're in a different weight class. And I mean, if you look at Jan Blachowicz' win streak, he fought the best at light heavyweight besides John Jones. And dude, this guy did damage.
Yeah.
And for me, watching how he leveled up his technicality against Dominic Cruz, which came off of a loss with John Jones. So we bring that back up that, you know, he felt uncomfortable. Those leg kicks. I mean, dude, he put that guy's nose on the other side of his face, literally.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if Izzy is going to be able to sustain those kind of hits. If I was Jan Blachowicz, I would walk into this fight and I would go for the body.
Yeah.
I would go for the body, work my
slow him down.
Up. But, you know, when you're doing that, you got to be quick and cognizant of Israel Adesanya's feet. That guy can whip those kicks up like it from angles and ways that no other fighter I've seen be able to do, not even, you know, Spider the Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, the man Anderson Silva, whatever. So this is going to be a great fight. You're going to really see two fighters come in and from my boxing background, pick each other apart. It's not going to be an accidental knockout. It's going to be like they need to read each other. It's going to take 2 or 3 rounds.
Yeah.
And then it's going to turn into a real fight.
Yeah, I'll disagree with you on the kick. Like the kicking, I think is on the same level as Anderson Silva because obviously the guy's had 83 fucking kickboxing matches. He's fought all kinds of body types. That's why I don't think like it's not going to be hard for him to transition into fighting Jan because he's fought all kinds of guys when he was back in his kickboxing days. Which again, he's had almost 85 kickboxing matches before you tack on his 20 MMA fights. So the guy fought over 100 times in a cage or ring or whatever. Yeah, I think that he's going to be able to transition well. But I think Jan, the game plan is going to be for him to slow him down. The thing I think that I would say is you do have to watch Izzy's feet, but because of the angles that he takes, the way he's able to move in and out on you. Go back and watch the Costa fight. He's able to move in and out on you, stay out of range, and then move in when he wants to hit you. If he can start picking Jan off early, he might wear him out and put him away, pretty early if he can already start picking them apart. Like if he can do the slower fighter. So Jan, it's going to take up it. Like he's going to have to try leg kicks. He's going to have to try body shots to try and slow Adesanya down and get him flat on his feet. So that way he can start picking them apart with the hands. I think that's really going to be the game plan, unless he's able to press. Izzy has next level defense, takedown defense, absolutely next level.
I suggest for you and everyone else, take a look at. I watched it last week. Watch his fight against Dominic Reyes.
Yeah,
he leveled up.
Yeah,
his striking was fucking on point, dog.
Yeah, it was, but I also attribute that, and I'm not taking anything away from Jan. Jan absolutely demolished him. But that also came from when we talked about this after, where Dom Reyes did not fight his game, and he paid for that. So he paid for that by being in front and then trying to preserve his energy and then take it to the later rounds. He didn't even make it to the later rounds, but that's what happens. But I think Izzy, to me, I'm going to pick Izzy in this one. The reason why is because he has more tools at his disposal. I think he's going to be able to maintain the range. He's going to move how he wants to, and for 5 rounds, that's going to be easy breezy. He's going to come out of there just peppering Jan with hits. I think if Izzy wins, it's going to go to decision. Jan's a tough motherfucker, and it's going to be hard to put him away. But he has the height and the reach advantage, so he's going to stay on the outside, work around him, use that full cage. Watch his footwork, man. It's going to be masterful. I can't wait to see how he does. I don't think it'll be as like a clear-cut performance as it was versus Costa, but and if it is, that's absolutely insane. But it's going to be a good fucking fight.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, I mean, I can't argue it. I won't argue it. I wasn't going to go with Jan in this fight anyway, but,
Yeah. So
luck can happen, man.
Yeah. All right, man. So let's get into these fight odds. Vegas agrees with me. Adesanya is the -260 favorite versus Blachowicz, who's the +200. So Vegas agrees with me. That's a decent separation. That means they're like, yeah, Izzy's probably going to win this fight, but they're keeping it close because Jan always has that Polish power. He can come through and finish it. So, but that's it, man. That's our picks. Thank you for tuning in. I'm sorry, this podcast did absolutely go longer. It went about 40 minutes longer than we were hoping for originally, but we just had a lot to catch up on early. I don't even think we started talking about the fights until like 25 minutes in. But thank you everybody for tuning in. We are excited to be back for 2021. Dan, I'm gonna hand it over to you for some closing comments real quick. But just remember, we have a lot of stuff coming at you. Keep up on our Facebook page at the Casuals MMA, as always, and we'll start announcing stuff on there as far as other videos, other shows, etc., etc. But Dan, any closing comments?
No, just thank you for following us. As always, Ryan, thank you for having me join. Make sure to follow us, Podbean, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, the Casuals MMA. We're litty titty on all of them. As always, let us know the best ways that, you'd like us to share our details or, present it or, anything. Also, feel free to ask us to join. We're happy to have all, everyone and anyone join us, to give us a run for our money on our predictions and on our fight analysis of the fighters. But other than that, just happy to be back, excited to go, and, excited to come up next week with, some of, some daily shows on just, other UFC and fight news.
Yes. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. As always, we really appreciate you tuning in and listening to the Casuals MMA. We got a lot for you, and tune in later this week for our fantasy draft show. Thanks again, everybody. Have a good week. Enjoy the fights, and we'll catch you next time around.